Michael Myers is returning to theaters once again this year with a new 2018 Halloween film. But before the release of that film, I thought it might be worth taking a look at one of the more maligned entries in the series, and that's Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers, alternately titled Halloween 6: The Curse of Michael Myers, as the producer's cut is titled. Now, this is a movie. Not a lot of fans like this movie, but to be honest, I always kind of liked it, in a guilty pleasure kind of way for sure. It's a schlocky movie. I mean, its plot is ridiculous. It's all over the place, and there's stupid character motivations and just a bunch of cheesy, gory kills and all that. And some of it's like mid 90s MTV flashy editing kind of like gives it this weird feel to it. So I don't know. I like it, even though I know it's kind of a stupid movie, but for what it is, I enjoy it. But I have always been interested in this alternate cut of the film, the producer's cut, which it's a drastic change from the original movie, for sure. So this review, it will mainly focus on that cut of the film, and I guess I should say spoilers, just in case if you haven't seen either version of the film. I'll probably go into some spoilers in this review. But this production of Halloween 6, it did kind of have like an infamous curse itself, where there's a lot of production problems. The movie went through many changes, rewrites, reshoots, re-editing, all that. So it definitely had that reputation to it, and of course, there had always been this alternate cut somewhere, and it made its kind of bootleg rounds throughout. Oh, I guess before the dawn of internet, through conventions and things like that, and then some clips were available on the internet. Some interesting stuff. Like, you'd be interested in seeing this version of the movie, and finally, just 2-3 years ago, Shout Factory, Scream Factory, they put together the Halloween complete box set, which had all the Halloween movies, which is kind of an amazing thing in and of itself, because all the Halloween movies have different rights. So this actually, the Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers, is the beginning of its stay at Dimension Films. So it was from Halloween 6 to Resurrection, I believe, that they had the rights to the film. So the rights were always different, but they came out with this big box set, and one of the appealing factors of this set was, for the first time, you could view the producer's cut of Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. So that's a pretty cool thing. So I had to get the set and watch the version of the movie. But what's actually kind of interesting is, just recently, actually, they came out with a single individual release of this Blu-ray cut. So before, you could only get it in the whole big set, right? So now, if you're interested, you can check it out just on its own. And I would say it's worth doing, in my opinion, because it's so interesting to see these two versions of the same story, but told in such a different way, with so many details changed, or omitted in one cut, or just completely serving a different purpose in another. So there's a huge difference between these cuts, which is just so fascinating to view this version of the film. So I mean, that alone is worth checking it out. But the story here, and what they're trying to do, I mean, no wonder the movie disappointed. One, because the plot is kind of messy and all over the place, and ultimately kind of ridiculous, and just over explains everything, which shouldn't be done in horror movies anyway. But it had a lot to deliver, really, because with the previous movies, from 4 and 5 and into this one, they've been setting up this subplot, this weird, mysterious man in black kind of stalking around and somehow in control of Michael, or following him around, responsible for him in some way. This mysterious man in black, this mysterious thorn tattoo on Michael. So what is this thorn plot? Where is it going? And this movie kind of assigns itself to resolve all that, and it does in, I don't know, I guess, reasonable way, about like as best as they could in what they've set up previously, I guess. But basically, the Thorn cult, it controls Michael Myers. They have to deliver these sacrifices on Halloween through these cursed individuals, and Michael Myers is the current cursee. But they're trying to bring the curse over into this new child who is a relative of Michael Myers in some distant way through the Strode family. A new Strode family is living in the house. So basically, it's all about the cult trying to get this kid, and Michael Myers killing people along the way. And we have Paul Rudd playing Tommy Doyle from the first movie. Remember, little kid that Laurie was babysitting. It's haunted him his whole life. He's become obsessed with Michael Myers. So he's going to help out the Strode family living in the house with the help of Dr. Loomis, once again played by Donald Pleasance. His last appearance in the Halloween series, his last time donning this role. So that's generally the plot. They're all trying to stop it, and it resolves certain things with the storyline with Jamie, who is the protagonist, the girl from the first, well, not the first two, but I mean the first two in the Thorn trilogy, if you want to call it that, but the previous two films. She's recast, she's older, and the way it begins is almost the same, but what you notice first in this new cut of the film is that all the flashy MTV style editing, that's all gone. It's completely discarded. It was just an editing trick in post production to try to get it more, I don't know, hip and trendy, I guess, and probably failed in doing so. But all that's gone. It's a slower paced movie, and with Jamie, her story is changed quite a bit. Like it's the same general thing where in the beginning, she's being chased by Michael, and calls into that radio show, the Barry Sims show, and they're all talking about Michael Myers and returning Halloween to the town and all that. All that's the same, but one of the big differences, which ultimately doesn't really lead anywhere, is Jamie is stabbed by Michael, but she's not like killed brutally on like the farm equipment like she is in the theatrical version of the film. She's stabbed, left for dead, and for like half the movie she's in the hospital. So that's a huge difference in the movie, I think. And then like ultimately the Man in Black comes and kills her anyway, so it was like completely pointless to keep her alive for a little bit longer. And like even like a little change, like in the theatrical version, there's the opening monologue kind of explaining things about Michael Myers, and Paul Rudd is the one delivering that dialogue. In this version of the film, it's Donald Pleasance. So what I think this version of the film achieves is bringing him a little bit more into the story. Like he's still kind of the supporting presence that he is, but his portion of the plot, his connection to Michael Myers, I think, is kind of put into I don't know, more of a kind of where it always maybe was meant to be all these years. Kind of brings their fate together in kind of an interesting way, I think. So it's good to see more Donald Pleasance in the movie. They let his scenes play out a little bit longer. Apparently, 1996, Donald Pleasance just kind of having a monologue about his career as a psychiatrist is just not interesting, I guess. I don't know, but anyway, they bring him into the story a little bit more. The movie has less gore actually than the theatrical version. Like there's the scene with say the asshole stepfather who ultimately gets killed, and like the theatrical, it's this like over the top thing where he's like pushed against, I don't know, like the electric grid in the house or whatever, and like he's foaming at the mouth and blowing up, and like his head blows up or something like that. It's ridiculous. In this cut of the film, it's more subtle. He's just kind of grabbed by the neck, and like you hear like a cracking sound, like that's killed him. That's what Michael Myers did to the father. So it's toned down in terms of the violence and the gore quite a bit, and I won't go through every single change because like there's a lot. Really, like watching both versions back to back is just, it's like night and day. These two versions of the movie, but the ending is definitely something that's way different, and again, I think brings more to the Loomis character a little bit. So it's kind of the same plot point of the theatrical cut, where after trying to escape the house with Michael Myers, Paul Rudd and Dr. Loomis, they're knocked out, and Kara Strode, who's kind of the female protagonist of the movie, it's her son who's kind of being targeted. Her and her son get kidnapped, and they're brought to Smith's Grove, and the kind of cult. The cult ward, I guess. They're doing their weird Thorn cult stuff. So that is where it gets really different in the final act of the movie, where it's definitely this more subtle kind of ending to the movie. They're trying to do this kind of procedure, this act that puts the curse to the kid, right? And they have his mother kind of lying on this altar, and this whole weird ritual really is what it is. They're trying to put the curse over to the kid, and Michael's there, and the Man in Black is there. The Man in Black, by the way, just turns out to be some guy. I think he was like, in the first movie technically as a character, but he was like a colleague of Dr. Loomis, but not really a huge surprise, but he's there. And Paul Rudd and Dr. Loomis, they kind of like infiltrate, like Wizard of Oz style, like Tommy Doyle. He like dresses up as a cult member from Thorn, and they stop the ritual basically. And what's also kind of interesting, like with the theatrical cut, there always were kind of these, I don't know, allusions to the fact that perhaps this child of Jamie's is Michael's child, right? So, which is weird, but not maybe explicitly stated in theatrical. Well, in this version, definitely it's his kid, so that's weird. Jamie being his niece, of course. So in this version, it's made pretty clear. Kara says, "Michael, this is your child, don't you? You know this," and whatever. So anyway, they escape, and through what Tommy Doyle has learned of the Thorn cult and all this, ancient Celtic kind of whatever stuff, he uses these rune stones to stop Michael. Like, he just kind of places them in front of Michael, and he stops. And like, the power of the runes stopped him. Like, wow, that's a great line. And that's another thing that's maybe a little bit distracting about the movie, just seeing Paul Rudd in this role, like trying to be serious. It was like his first role. You can like see him like probably cracking up laughing at some of the ridiculous stuff in this movie. But anyway, the ending, where it kind of all amounts to, is that this curse of Michael Myers, the baby's saved, the kid is saved, no curse is going on anybody, stays with Michael. Loomis goes back to kind of check things out, right? So if you remember in the theatrical cut, with like this whole version that's not even in this cut of the film, or like they're escaping, and like Michael's like slaughtering people, and he's getting like stabbed with a syringe in the eyes, or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact details, but it was like this crazy intense sequence that's nowhere to be found in this version. But after all that, they're taking off, right? They're getting out of Dodge basically, but Dr. Loomis is staying behind. He's like, oh, there's still some stuff I have to do, or whatever. And then the movie ends, and like you hear him screaming, right, as like the jack-o'-lantern kind of blows out, and that's the end of the theatrical version. It was really weird. So what was going on there? So what this version is, he goes to check on Michael. It's actually the Man in Black who has been knocked out by Michael, but he grabs Dr. Loomis by the arm, and through the power of the Thorn cult curse, I guess, the Thorn tattoo appears on Dr. Loomis's wrist. So what this means is that the Man in Black is this curse in and of itself, where it's the person meant to watch over Michael, basically, and be the, I don't know, overseer of his curse, and try to help him in certain ways in moving the curse over. So the Man in Black puts that responsibility on Dr. Loomis, and he himself is cursed. So he looks at his wrist with the tattoo on it now of the thorn symbol as Michael walks away in the Man in Black's outfit. Kind of a cool shot. And that's how the movie ends, with Loomis screaming, knowing that he is cursed as well. So I don't know. It's kind of cool. I like that ending. But the thing is, the ending it's not really all that exciting or eventful, really. I mean, they just put a bunch of rocks in front of Michael and escape. That's no good. So in watching this version of the movie, I mean, you can understand why there was that intervention in trying to get a cut of a movie that was more, I don't know, appealing to a wider audience. Like, I mean, you gotta respect the writers, director, and everyone else involved in trying to tell this story, because it's more of a slower burn kind of classic kind of horror movie, if you want to kind of put it that way. But the theatrical version just completely changes all that, so it condenses the plot a little bit, gets the bullet points, I guess, which is good enough. Doesn't go into too much detail, moves at a much faster pace, has, again, more of the MTV style to it, like even like the MTV style music too, a little bit of like rock in the soundtrack, and obviously more gore. So I mean, it's a more accessible version, even though I guess ultimately maybe no version of this movie works. You can kind of see this producer's cut working on paper, right? Like, it sounds pretty good on paper. They explain Michael's origin of his evil, and they connect it to Dr. Loomis and his curse and all that, and it's not bad, but just the way we see it in a movie, it's just, I don't know, not too exciting, not too thrilling. So you can kind of understand why they especially changed the ending the way that they did and made it more hardcore and scary and things like that. So I mean, ultimately the problem is the movie's mission, its goal, its purpose is not something that fans, I think, had too much interest in over-explaining Michael Myers, which continuously, I don't know, they do, like with the remake. Just no good. We don't want to explain Michael Myers. We just want him to be, scary and mysterious, I guess. I think that's the best way to go about the character. So let's see if this new 2018 version gets it right. But for now, I don't know. Halloween, Curse of Michael Myers, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, I think it's alright. If I had to choose a preferred version of the movie, I actually do still prefer the theatrical version, in all honesty. It's tighter, it's more entertaining, to be perfectly honest, but it's just undeniably fascinating to see this alternate version of the film. So definitely recommend checking out this producer's cut if you haven't, just to see what kind of could have been, in a similar way that we see director's cuts of The Exorcist 3 or Alien 3 or things like that. We see kind of an idea of where the production was originally going, but not necessarily definitive, I guess you could say. So I don't know, worth checking out. That's my review of Halloween 6, the producer's cut. Thank you very much for watching. Have you seen this version of the movie? Comment below, let me know. And be sure to stay tuned. 31 Days of Horror, more horror movie reviews every day. Until next time, stay tuned and stay scared.